Plaza, and in that police car, there was sitting a man. Around that police car, there were a bunch of students lying on the ground, and around them, more students sitting. And as the minutes passed, more and more students were sitting there. You might ask, why is that person in the police car? It was a very simple thing. He had started an hour before, maybe 10 minutes before, sorry, sitting at a table at the base of these steps. He was handing out leaflets to the Congress of Racial Equality. I don't know what the leaflet said. They probably said there was going to be a demonstration. He was collecting money for that. That's all he was doing. When somebody from the dean's office came over, asked him to identify himself, and when he couldn't produce a rich card, had him arrested. Jack went limp, and good civil rights style, and they brought a police car out to the middle of the campus, middle of Sprout Plaza, put him in it, but somebody yelled, "Sit down," and a lot of people sat down. More and more people began to sit down, and they stayed there for 32 hours. You might ask, how come he was arrested for sitting at a table and passing out literature? We have tables here all the time, you say, advertising a whole bunch of causes. But in the fall of 1964, you couldn't have a political table on this campus. They put you at the entrance on Bancroft, and you had a 26-foot strip to put your table, hand out literature advertising the civil rights actions and the farm worker support actions that were going on, signing up members to come to those tables and raising money for those causes. You had a 26-foot strip to do that, only because the university had forgotten that they still own that piece of property. When they discovered it, because somebody from the Oakland Tribune called to remind them of that, and to remind them of the fact that people were leaving from Berkeley and picketing the Oakland Tribune for unfair hiring practices, the university sent out a notice that we could not have tables there, that there would be no social and political advocacy to improve conditions in the United States or elsewhere on this campus.
Education must be free, no money, no peace. Education must be free, no
We're now giving the dedication for the students. Welcome, students of UCA today. They tried to take that right away from time to time, but people have resisted. And today, they are still enjoying that right and will resist any attempt to take it away. I'm going to turn the bell over now for a greeting to the ASUC Vice President for External Affairs, Caitlin Quinn, if she is here. Caitlin, okay, she'll have a brief welcome to you.
and across the nation. And we are the only entity on this campus that every single student has the power to change. While some students are involved in the hiring of different administrators, ASUC elected officials are chosen annually at the discretion of the student body. And trust me, we are a very smart, very critical student body. And because we are so smart and critical, I want us to look at why we talk about the free speech movement as if it were ancient history. I posit that this framework is no accident. 50 years may have gone by, but our administration continues to dismiss many of our concerns. The free speech movement, but they are the institution forcing students to protest and occupy. We have the freedom to speak, but are they listening? They aren't. That's the answer. At the campus, we must remember, honor, and teach our history of unrelenting activism, including who caused the need for activism. At the campus, we must recognize and collaborate with other powerful student movements across the globe, such as the students of Hong Kong who right now are demanding free and fair elections. We must support each other and build coalitions to effectively tackle all the different problems students face. Because 50 years ago, students fought for your right to ask the hard questions, so now it is our duty to exercise that right and fight the fight that future students will remember us for. Thank you all.
We have a message also to the students of Berkeley from Edward Snowden. So I'm going to introduce Jeff Brady, who will read that message to you. It was just received this morning.
We've had a request from the back of the crowd if the people in front could sit, possibly, so that the speakers can be seen. Many of them are shorter than I am. Thank you for inviting me to speak to you today as we recognize the 50th anniversary of the free speech movement. Berkeley's unparalleled traditions of student activism and community engagement have been both a challenge and an inspiration to human rights movements worldwide. They compel us to imagine the world we want to live in and to stand up for it. And they show us that with vision and persistence, we can change the world. I am honored to join with you today to celebrate that tradition. Threats to free expression in the United States and around the world today are vast and complex. In order to better understand and combat these new threats, we must look back on the great victories of the free speech movement and its part in the people's movements that created checks on government power at that time. Many of these checks, unfortunately, have now been almost completely eroded. The extraordinary mass surveillance and censorship capabilities and unprecedented government secrecy require us, once again, to take urgent action to preserve our free societies. This is the challenge of our generation and yours. While new technologies have introduced extraordinary opportunities for free expression and communication around the globe, governments have in secret worked against these forces to re-engineer these new capabilities as tools of mass surveillance and oppression. Surveillance, without regard to the rule of law or basic human dignity, creates societies that fear free expression and dissent, the very values that have made America strong. When we know we're being watched, we impose restraints on our behavior, even clearly innocent activities, just as surely as if we were ordered to do so. On this campus, in 1964, Mario Savio said, "There is a time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart, that you can't take part." Over the past 13 months, people around the world have spoken out and continue to stand up against the forces of censorship and surveillance. Together, we will restore the public seat at the table of government. Thank you.
Okay, I want to introduce now a woman who was a heroine to us and continues to be a fighter for the rights of working people, the rights of women, and the rights of everyone for free speech and political advocacy, Dolores Huerta.
This wonderful, wonderful commemoration. God knows it's so definitely needed. And thank all of you who made history, that are here, that came here. I know we have long to stay here, and really you were really blessed people, and you were, the background of it, and that journey to bring our civil rights issues and peace to everybody. And one of the reasons I think, it's an assumption, but one thing that the powers that be really hate and really fear is when they see us coming together, right? They don't want that. They don't want that. They would prefer that each of us work in our own movements and our own silos, because they know that their jobs are all trying to do the justice or trying to bring so much harder that way. So, this movement started because of the civil rights movement in the South, because people want to help people that are out there in the South just trying to get the right to vote. I have here with me Walter Riley. He is a civil rights attorney here in the Bay Area. Walter was actually in court. He was there in the South. Maybe he can take us a break to make it. I think he's a good girl. We cannot, rest when we know that we still have so many of our young people that are getting killed. When the lynching of African America and young Latinos is done by the police, and that is going on right now. We have to remember that. Every kill can stop it. And I do believe that, again, all those people that don't want to have justice for all of us, what they do is they focus on attacking immigrants, attacking our LGBTQ community, attacking women's reproductive rights, attacking labor. They want to keep people distracted, because when you come right down to what the real issue is, the economy, right? It's the economy. When you have that 1%, more wealth than the 99%, we have 4 million families, we have more money than 1,500,000 people here in the United States of America, and this is totally wrong. I think it's too organized, we cannot stop, we cannot take the breath. I'm 84 years old, everybody, okay? We cannot afford to retire. We got too much work to do. We've got to preserve our planet. These idiots, they don't think there's any climate change going on. And bring our children and our grandchildren and everybody who can. The elections coming in November. Don't forget to vote, and please vote yes on Proposition 47, okay? What is that? Proposition 47 will reduce the felonies misdemeanors to get to the people out of jail, right? If the electorate can get them out of jail, Proposition 45, what is that? It will say that these insurance companies, these health insurance companies, cannot raise their rates until they get the approval from the insurance commissioners, okay? So we have a lot of work to do, and I just wanted to let's remember the people that did the work for us here, okay? So I'm going to say, for those who are hearing this before, that it's not like this, so I'm going to say, Mario Sabio, I want all of you to say, presente, like I heard today, okay? You know what they love. Mario Sabio! Cesar Chavez! Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.! Father Bill O'Donnell! Dorothy Day? Okay, do we have that? Do we do it? I think we have the truth here. We have everything in the world, and yes, we will make it happen. So, buddy, look at what that we built a community. That people want to see each other after 50 years is because we built a community. We built a community from the left, from the right, from the center. Democrats, Republicans, communists, socialists, reactionaries, libertarians, all came together around one idea. That a person does not lose their rights as citizens of the United States when they come onto the campus of the university. Many of us have been involved in movements all our lives since that day. I'm just going to name a few, and if you've been involved in it, raise your hand. The civil rights movements. All right, how about women's reproductive and abortion rights? LGBT, the lesbian, gay, and bisexual and transgender rights. Anti-war, anti-imperialism, anti-Vietnam fights. Labor union struggles. And women's liberation. Why haven't I forget that one? Oh my God, I would get fired. Why were we in all of those movements? Why are we still involved? We are still involved because the repression from the right has been greater than we expected. We didn't know that they were going to steal everything that wasn't nailed down. And when they finished that, they were going to steal everything after prying it up that was nailed down. We didn't know they were going to take that wealth and decide that students would ever come out of debt in the tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars to get an education. We didn't know they were going to say that people don't need labor unions, don't need pensions. We didn't know those things. So we have to stay fighting. But I'm hopeful. Why am I hopeful? Look at the people behind me. I'm hopeful because you know that the forces of evil are small in number and we are many. We are many. We are many. And if we can do those kinds of community building things, cross lines of ideology, cross lines of practice, cross lines of social movements, if we can do that, if we can build community, we can change this country into a democracy. And this time, it will be not only a political democracy, it will be an economic democracy at that. So here's what I say to you. I know it's terrible, I didn't listen to advice of people then, but I'm going to give you a little advice anyway. Listen, not just talk. When you're organizing, listen, not just talk. Make sure that you reach out and support each other's efforts, not just the ones you are personally in. And here's the most important. Every morning, get up and look in the mirror. And as you're brushing those dentures, say to yourself, I will not be cynical today. I will not be cynical today. I will not believe the crap that everybody is in it for themselves. I will not believe that everybody is corrupt. I will not believe the propaganda that is designed to make me think it is hopeless. It is never hopeless as long as you resist. Next speaker will be the distinguished professor of feminist studies at UCSC, and maybe her more important title, steering committee member during the FSM, Bettina Actecker. Thank you so much. It is a joy to be here today. I share Jackie Goldberg's optimism and the Lord's God's beautiful words. And I was thrilled as I entered Sprout Hall Plaza to see all of those tables up, advocating and educating and petitioning. And it's just terrific. And that's what we were fighting for 50 years ago. And that at least still prevails, not only here, but on so many campuses around the country. It's very gratifying however far we have yet to
the extent to which FSM was indebted to and part of the civil rights movement of the 1960s. Coming out of Mississippi, coming out of protests in San Francisco, it's already been said, I'm not going to dwell on it, but I want to emphasize that it was the black students in the South, the black sharecroppers in the South, the black church people in the South who rose this country up. Who created the dynamics of war equality that Martin Luther King Jr. yet appropriately claimed. But never forget where the real impetus for that movement came from, and then helped us here on this campus. One of the key things we learned in that movement was the power of mass movements and coalitions. And it was through that, including the labor movement in this area, the farm workers of which the Lawrence Welfare was a leader with Desert Chavez, it was through that and the civil rights coalitions here in the Bay Area, and then the faculty on December 8th that finally broke the back of the regents and the governor and forced them to recognize that they would not go beyond the First and 14th Amendments to the United States Constitution, and that they would guarantee freedom of speech and equal opportunity before the law. I also today take great inspiration from the tens of thousands of folks that filled the streets of Manhattan 10 days ago as the United Nations commenced negotiations on climate change. Remembering the demonstration of people's power that was, starting with Indigenous peoples ceremony in Central Park. A coalition that included African Americans, Indigenous peoples from all over the world, Asian Americans, Latino, Chicano, Puerto Rican peoples, white middle class, working class, of all hues and ethnicities, and the LGBT community. It was everybody. It was everybody. And it was a tremendous, I estimate, 400,000 people. Changing the politics and posturing around climate change has got to be a number one priority. If we don't do that, we won't have a planet, and we shall argue about the First Amendment. I also want to just endorse and embrace our sisters and brothers in Hong Kong today. That's what we say. In solidarity with the college of those students and that coronavirus community. I want to say that in the last years, tens of thousands of people in this country have marched for immigration rights, have demanded the DREAM Act be passed, and have done everything they can to stop the roundup of so-called undocumented people. 1 million people marched in Washington in April 2004 for reproductive freedom. I'm enumerating these things because we get these protests as sound bites on the evening news and then forget that they happened. And then the media says there's no student movement anymore, but people are apathetic, that they're not really organizing. That's not true. Don't believe it. And that's the cynicism that Gary Goldberg was responding to. Don't believe it. And don't let it stop you from engaging in meaningful social justice and peace movements that need to happen. One final comment is obviously technologies like Twitter and smartphones and so on make possible almost instantaneous communication. And we can see the role of this has played in many protests around the world, including in Hong Kong now, and also in the Arab Spring, all over the world. But I want to emphasize to you that there is no substitution for grassroots, face-to-face, day-to-day, neighborhood-to-neighborhood organizing. There's no substitution for that. That is what inspires people. That is what gets people to understand that their issues that they're concerned about are connected to other issues, that we are all part of one another. Then we can have a vision and propose to people a vision of a world in which there is peace,
and social justice and great happiness. Thank you so much.
Started this rally in Blanca, being taken away because they dared to hand out
Probably go stand
leaflets
someplace
supporting racial
away from me.
equality. That man is here with us today. I'm going to introduce you to Jack Weinberg. He's currently Senior Policy Advisor for IPED, an international environmental rights organization that's fighting toxic pollution. And here is Jack out of the car.
Thank you all for coming out. A week ago, if somebody would have asked me what was the most important student protest movement in the last 50 years, I would have confidently said the Berkeley Free Speech Movement. But that was a week ago. On Monday and Tuesday, we were on stage. Probably the most significant student movement of our era is taking place as we speak in Hong Kong. It's been building for over a year. In June, the issue, for those of you who are not reading the newspapers, don't know, the issue is the right to free elections. In 2017, the citizens of Hong Kong have been given the right to vote, but with the trick. All candidates have to be approved, both by the authorities in Beijing and by the business establishment in Hong Kong. That's very much like the right to vote in Iran. You can vote as long as nobody you vote for wants to change anything, or wants to do anything to upset the status quo. Last June, the citizens of Hong Kong held an online referendum on the right to nominate their own candidates. Even though it was hacked by the authorities, it was down, over 900,000 people participated in that referendum. Today, October 1st, is a national day in China, and the protest was supposed to start today. But the Hong Kong Federation of Students, which is an organization of all university students in Hong Kong, and scholasticism, an organization that began as high school activists, jumped the gun and began the Occupy Central on Monday. They were confronted with tear gas and attacked, and as a result, all of Hong Kong, other than the party and the business establishment, came to their support. No active figures exist, but at least 100,000 people today are sitting in the streets of Hong Kong. They are demanding a change in the way elections happen. They are demanding the executive stand down. And they said if they don't get their demand soon, they will start occupying buildings. I want to read you a statement from the organizer of this rally, but I hope I am speaking for all of you. We support the Occupy movement for free elections and democracy in Hong Kong, and we call for police restraint. University and high school students are leading the way. Today, October 1st, marks the 50th anniversary of the Berkeley Free Speech Movement. Our officials repressed us in 1964, but our struggle for free speech prevailed. Today, we are officially honored and recognized. You will be honored and recognized as well. The whole world is watching. Students around the world, yellow ribbons, their country's movement. This is their banner. And I wanted, this wasn't what I was planning to say today, but I think it was what had to be said today. I think that our movement at Berkeley inspired young people and activists around the world. People were conservative, were tired, were afraid, were isolated before that, and they came together and stood up. The Hong Kong students taking part in a movement that started with Occupy with Peace and Love, Occupy Central with Peace and Love, are now setting up another image, another example for the whole world to follow. Just when things seem too conservative to make a difference, just when things seem impossible, the opportunity arises. One has to struggle in the conditions to live, but no, when change happens fast. Our world is faced by so many ills, and I'm not going to catalog them. But in broad terms, we have the growth of inequality and opportunity for students who are saddled with such stress that you can't even leave school, think of anything but paying them back. For working people, real wages are lower today than they were in 1964. For people without jobs and without opportunities, the world is a very frightening place, and yet the pay for corporate executives has skyrocketed. Corporate executives make 3,000 times their average employee. Fast food executives make 1,200 times their average employee, and it's not just about money. It's about political power. It's about being able to control this society, and that's got to change. And that is one of the two civilization issues that are facing us. Are we looking forward to a world of opportunity, or a return to aristocracy and oligarchy? The second issue of equal importance is the right to live in a livable planet. Climate change, poisoning the environment. We are destroying the life support systems upon which our human civilization is based. And greedy corporate powers don't think about their grandchildren. They only think about the bottom line. And once again, those same people who redistribute wealth on their behalf are refusing to allow the necessary activities to come to a livable planet, to preserve the climate, to preserve the life-giving ecosystems of the world. So we have a huge agenda before us. I'm going to think of the students in Hong Kong, think of the university students, think of the high school students. Do what you can day in, day out. We'll all come together and we shall prevail. Thank you.
In our department, we think a lot about words and their force. So I thought it would be appropriate for me to start by commenting on a few powerful words spoken here half a century ago. There is a time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels and upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. There is a time. 1964 was such a time. Students and civil rights organizers faced routine police harassment and possible arrest for tabling on campus in support of racial justice. Thousands of students found this odious, so they struck and shut down California Hall. 1969 was another such time.
Students of color were facing routinized structural white supremacy at all levels of the university. In response, they formed a coalition and struck for the opening of a third world college. It was only when Oakland municipal workers decided to strike in solidarity with the students that the administration conceded to the formation of ethnic studies programs at Berkeley. These were times when students and workers called a stop to the operations of the machine. It's interesting that Mario Savio uses the metaphor of the machine. The metaphor suggests that the university is like a factory, but students are made into objects and exploited by its operations, but that, like workers, students have the capacity to strike. The metaphor also said something about the rhythms of university operations. The operations of a machine don't change much over time. Machines repeat the same actions over and over. And if they are halted one day, they can start up again the next day. The metaphor of the machine carries a difficult truth about our history, that the gears grind on, and that in significant ways their operations remain odious today. It's a truth that many of us who inherit the struggles of the 60s know all too well. We know that the struggle continues. We know because every few years administrators threaten the budgets of ethnic studies departments. We know because they've been hiking our tuition, our healthcare costs, and our rents, making our university less and less public. Because they refuse to divest from fossil fuels or from Israeli apartheid. Because the former head of the Department of Homeland Security is now the president of our university. And because when students take collective action, we are still met with police cars and billy clubs. It was an encounter with a police car that sparked the free speech movement 50 years ago today. And it was traumatic encounters with police lines that turned Occupy encampments into mass strikes here 3 years ago. These moments of collective action, as fleeting as they have been, have shown that we do have the power to call us back to university operations. We have the power to shut this place down. And we have the power to change aspects of how things work here. In 1965, students succeeded in getting rid of the ban on political advocacy on campus. In 69, students established ethnic studies programs. This was followed in 76 with the establishment of women and gender studies. In the 80s, student strikes and mass direct actions forced the university to divest more than $3 billion from South African apartheid. And in 2012, strikes and other collective actions helped win a freeze on in-state tuition hikes. We will likely need to strike in the coming year to maintain this tuition freeze and to begin to chip away at the costs and debt students take on to come here. Just last year, workers struck to ensure that they and those who come after them could retire in dignity. We struck as well to push the university to support undocumented students, transgender students, and student parents. Last year, students of color also took action to say no to Napolitano when she first visited campus in the spring. If you want to help carry forward these and other struggles this year, please come to the General Assembly at 5:30 this evening in Wheeler Hall. Mario Savio said that there are times to put our bodies on the line, to put our bodies against the gears of the university. He also said that until we are free, the present moment is one of these times. For all who remain sick at heart at the unfreedom of the university, we can feel that now is still one of those times. Do you feel sick at heart? Until the machine is dismantled, we live in a moment ripe for collective action. Whose university? Our university. 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 street worker